This show is clean.
Allah.
Pretty much.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Darling, you've got to let me know. It's what? Episode 709. Hello, it's Mike Matthews broadcasting from the last place on earth located somewhere in Podcaster Valley, California. Today we hear from Madame Rootabega, Valentino, Bison Bentley, plus it's the return of the segment BANDSMUTATIONS, where we explore the amazing band, the Electric Light Orchestra, and all the bands it came from and turned into, a la Jeff Lynne. Mike's Daily Podcast. And there's some news about the radio business that's shocking. That's the business I'm in. Mike's Daily Podcast. I'll tell you that story in just a little bit. And on the last show, Benita mentioned she graduated wearing a bikini. Oh, it was underneath her graduation gown, so it was out of sight. And that was many years ago. But saying that could start a fight with her, but I think she'll understand. And Mike's Daily Podcast. There was this thing I think I told you about a couple weeks ago where I was trying to get Mike's a better deal daily with my podcast cable service. Yeah, so I had AT&T and it just ran so slow, and I had the lowest amount of data that you could, get over the internet. And all I need is internet. I don't watch cable. I don't use the phone. So then a guy knocks on the door from Comcast, and he's with this other guy. And he says to me, yeah, well, if you just want internet, we got a great internet deal you're going to love. And look, you only have to pay this much money. Well, I get the bill, and it wasn't the price that was quoted. And not only that, there was I was charged the installation fee, and he told me that I wasn't going to get charged for that. And then there was the whole thing about the speed that he had promised me, the speed of the internet data plan. That was completely lower than what he had promised. So I talked to him, I called him back, I said, hey, this is what's going on, this isn't what you said. And he goes, oh, I'll work on it. Still didn't change. I called him back. He stopped taking my calls. I called the other guy that came to the house that I just happened to have taken his card as well. And he goes, oh, well, that other guy broke his leg, so I'll take over from here on out. And we talked back and forth a couple of times. And this is unfolding over the duration of 2 months. And this is all, it's filled with me calling him, leaving a message, not hearing back from him. And back and forth. Then I talked to him, and he's like, I'm going to take care of it. It's going to be done. You know the story. And as I've mentioned before, don't even bother calling the Comcast phone, the 1-800-COMCAST phone bank, where you get passed around and nobody helps you. I wasted 2 hours on that. And I told you that story about how the guy in New Jersey that I ended up talking to thought I was a woman. He goes, what's your name? I said, Michael Matthews, and he's like, I've never heard of a woman named Michael before. I think the proper phrase there is adding insult to injury. At any rate, I finally ended up going, I wrote a mean email, first off, to the two guys that first sold me the Comcast. Then I took all the paperwork that I had gotten from those guys and went to an Xfinity Comcast store, an actual storefront, which I was dreading doing because I heard they're packed. But actually, I didn't have to wait too long, and they allowed me to bring Basil the Boxer in. So that helped pass the time. That was very cool. And then I got a guy named Juan who helped me out, and he took care of everything instantly. I got home, my internet speed was finally at what had been promised to me months ago. But then I get an email back from one of the guys who I guess did not take too kindly to my mean email where I went and said, hey, you guys have dropped the ball on this. I'm going to cancel my Comcast if I don't hear from you guys. And he finally writes me and he says, I have been out of the office due to a life-threatening issue, which what I heard from the other guy was he broke his leg. That's not threatening your life unless you're not getting it taken care of and the gangrene's setting in and you're dying. But he says, glad you got the serious issue taken care of. I detect a note of sarcasm. I will let my customers know they also have great service like I do. Does that sentence make sense? And then he says, have a wonderful day. Ugh. Look who just walked in. Hello, Michael Masters. This is Madame Rootabega. And I think the moral of the story you just told was to get a voodoo doll and to break its leg. Oh, make a voodoo doll of the salesperson? Yes, Michael Matthew. No, I don't think that's right. But no, the moral of the story is go into the actual Comcast store and talk to them. They have chairs. They have nice couches at the one I went to. And they let you bring your dog. Bring your dog. Oh, yes. Please bring your dog when you do this, by the way. And it just says everything to them. It says, look, at the time that you're taking away from me, I could be walking this dog here, but I'm having to spend it with you guys. I think the voodoo doll would work better. Okay. Look who else just walked in.
Hello there, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant.
And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that?
Mike, we're taking over the whole government there as Tea Party is. Kanta is resigning, and that means the Tea Party is taking over Tea Party Express Day.
Yeah, and Land Cruiser 2016. Do you know that? Oh. You're painting an interesting world to me, you guys. Thank you.
We're all about that. We're artists.
Yeah, all about painting. By numbers. Do you know that? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, please. We should get a paint by numbers party together sometime. That'd be a lot of fun. I'd enjoy that. Perhaps I'd bring Basil.
Mike, did Benita the rodeo queen really wear a bikini under her graduation gown when she graduated? Ba-ba-boom.
Ba-ba-boom. Yeah, right. I guess. I wasn't there, but that's what she said on yesterday's show. It was a great show. You know what else was a great show was a lot of radio shows in Los Angeles that apparently did not get rated properly. Nielsen ratings. They rate radio stations in Los Angeles. And apparently they had problems with their audience estimates. This is unprecedented. According to the LA Times, Nielsen conceded on Wednesday that 2 months of ratings data might have been compromised because of undisclosed problems with members of the firm's sample audience. The company this week delayed the release of its May radio ratings, saying it needed time to perform quality control reviews. And for those of you who aren't in radio, people that work in radio, DJs, air personalities, live and die by these stupid ratings that are so corrupt. That's why this story of Nielsen finally conceding that something went wrong, or actually, in fact, can go wrong, is fascinating. The disclosure rocked the Los Angeles region's radio stations, which rely heavily on Nielsen numbers to set their advertising rates. LA is the nation's largest radio market, as measured by revenue, with an estimated $1 billion spent annually for advertisements on dozens of stations. And, you know, a lot of that is political advertising, which that number is, as you know, getting larger and larger and larger. Trying to get the Tea Party into office, the Democrats into office, the super PACs are spending so much money and dumping so much money into media and a lot into radio stations. Radio executives said that they noticed April's ratings seemed off-kilter. Nielsen declined to detail the problems it uncovered with its sample audience in Los Angeles. They noted that it acted quickly to identify and resolve the problem that might have produced tainted ratings. Nielsen acquired Arbitron radio ratings. That is like the Bible of radio ratings. They acquired them last year, and they strive to recruit an audience pool that is representative of whatever region they're rating, which can be difficult in such a large and ethnically diverse market as Los Angeles. The recent problem, in addition to allegations of audience pool tampering last year, may expose larger problems with Nielsen's methodology. Some industry insiders said the firm has been relying on too small of a listener pool to accurately extrapolate audience levels for such a large city. The company, Nielsen Company, said it would release their May ratings Tuesday. Revised ratings for April, which were released last month, are expected to be completed and distributed to stations at the end of next week. Oh, and they also experienced problems with their sample audience last summer. Wow, and they launched an investigation into possible audience pool tampering then. Well, doesn't that make you question the accuracy of ratings in radio? Makes it much easier in the world of the internet when it's pretty easy to count how many people actually listen to your podcast or at least download it. But radio is a lot more of a nebulous area. What do you think about this whole ratings debacle? What do you think of radio, terrestrial radio today, the radio that you get over your car radio station or your clock radio? Email me, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. We read your comments on the section emails from email. Also email me there if you'd like to be a guest on the show or if you'd like to sponsor the show, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. There is also the website, MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com, with links to where to listen to the show in iTunes. Subscribe to the show in iTunes, and if you rate and comment on the show there, that helps us out. More people find out about us if you do that. There's also the Facebook page. Like the Facebook page, and when I post a new show, share it with your friends, and more people will find out about us that way, too. There's also links to where to find us on Twitter, YouTube, Yelp, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Stitcher, Mixcloud, Tumblr, and there's also the Amazon deal of the day. Click on that and buy something at a great discount, and that helps us out. We get a little bit from that, which we still haven't got anything from that yet because apparently nobody's buying anything through it. So I don't know if that says what people think of Amazon these days or what, but anyway, if you want to help us out, that's a great way to do it there on the website. And there's also one of those PayPal donation buttons too on the website you can find if you want to help us out that way. If not, that's fine. But you should also check out the blog and the daily podcast pictures. Oh, and all the interviews that I've done on the show. You can check all that stuff out there at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com.
Mutations.
This is a very interesting segment where we look at some interesting things that Swedish people like. And that is bands and music playing in your ears. And actually, this is a guy who has been a part of so many bands and has been an influence on so much music that we know and love today. Let's talk a little bit about Jeff Lynne. The first band he was in was actually called the Rockin' Hellcats, which then became the Handicaps, and then later the Andy Caps.
You make me happy just being so happy you are, that is why I say time that you I'm laughing every day. Oh yeah.
Now back in 1964, Jeff, actually this is that album, that incarnation of that band did not have Jeff Lynne in it, because he had left before they got successful in 1964 to be in a band called the Chads. He's playing guitar on that song. According to Wikipedia, sometime in or around 1965, he acquired his first item of studio recording equipment, a Bang & Olufsen Beochord 2000 Deluxe Stereo Reel-to-Reel Tape Recorder, which allowed multi-tracking between left and right channels. He says, "It taught me how to be a producer." In 1966, he joined the lineup of the Night Riders as a guitarist.
Screaming and I'm crying in the sleet and snow, asking everybody, oh, I wonder where did my baby go?
That band would soon change their name to the Idol Race. Allegedly given to the band sarcastically by Jeff Lynne's grandmother, Evelyn Lynne, who probably disapproved of pop music as not being a proper job and being an idle race. Despite recording 2 critically acclaimed albums with the band and producing the second, success eluded him. In 1970, he decided to accept an offer from friend Roy Wood to join the lineup of the more successful band called The Move. Jeff Lynne contributed many songs to The Move's last 2 albums while formulating with Roy Wood and Bev Bevan a band built around a fusion of rock and classical music, with the original idea of both bands existing in tandem. This project would eventually become the highly successful Electric Light Orchestra. Well, they put out a lot of albums. In 1980, Jeff Lynne worked on the movie and musical Xanadu, which had a big single with the title track, which reached number 1 in the UK. Interestingly enough, it's worth noting that Jeff Lynne had done a solo album. In 1976, he covered the Beatles songs with a little help from My Friends and Nowhere Man. He would later, in fact, within the past year, be on that special tribute to the Beatles and the Ed Sullivan Days and CBS. The Grammy salutes the Beatles. It was Jeff Lynne doing Somewhere with Joe Walsh and George Harrison's son.
Attracts me like no other lover. Something in the way she moves me.
In the 80s, too, Jeff Lynne was busy producing stuff for other people, including a song for the Everly Brothers. He wrote a song called The Story of Me. Wow, you can really hear the Jeff Lynne influence on that. The Everly Brothers, wow, from 1984. Oh, and I forgot another ballad from Xanadu that was a big hit for Olivia Newton-John. And he also wrote and produced a 1983 top 40 hit for the famous Dave Edmunds and the song Slippin' Away. Also in 1984, man, that was a busy year for Jeff Lynne. He and ELO keyboardist Richard Tandy, whom they would collaborate many, many times together, contributed 2 original songs, Video and Let It Run, to the film Electric Dreams. Well, he would, that's Video. He would go back to singing about satellites and electronics with the last big ELO album that came out in the mid-'80s, and that's about the time I was just about graduating high school. I love this song, Calling America. jump over to 1988 and the formation of the Traveling Wilburys. This would be Jeff Lynne's studio supergroup that included George Harrison, Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, and Roy Orbison, as well as Jeff Lynne himself.
You're the best thing that I've ever found. Handle me with care.
George Harrison singing that. Also in 1988, Jeff Lynne worked on Roy Orbison's last studio album called Mystery Girl, which featured the big song You Got It and the title track that was actually written by Bono of U2. I love that song. I love the video to that too, because Roy Orbison had already passed away, so they tell this whole story, this whole love story that goes completely wrong with just objects, and it's the way it's lit. It was one of the first really cool music videos that was so non-putting a rock singer in front of your face, but going with mood and stuff like that. Of course, in 1989, probably one of the most well-known songs that Jeff Lynne is known for writing and producing with someone else, it's Tom Petty, and from Full Moon Fever, Free Fallin'. Jeff Lynne has gone on to do all kinds of other things. He's worked with Dwayne Eddy and Brian Wilson. He has done his own solo stuff, working again with Richard Tandy. When George Harrison passed away, he worked on the album Brainwashed.
Oh Lord, we pay the price with the spin of a wheel, with the roll of the dice. Ah yeah, you pay a fare, and if you don't know where you're going, take you there.
It was also in the 80s, back in the 80s, that it was Jeff Lynne working with George Harrison before the Traveling Wilburys project, that they had success working together on the song When We Was Fab, which talked about the big Beatles days when they were the Fab Four. And then there was this huge song from the album Cloud 9.
I got my mind set on you, and this time
when George Harrison was still alive, he got together with him, along with Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney, and they worked on a couple songs that John Lennon had provided the vocals for, but had never finished the songs, and it included the songs Real Love and Free as a Bird. He is also, of course, known forever as the lead singer of the band Electric Light Orchestra, and so many other songs still get played on the radio, and this one being probably one of their biggest hits.
No, 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 no. I'll tell you what's wrong before I get off the floor. Don't bring me down, 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 down.
That's a guy that has worked a lot in the music biz, Jeff Lynne, on BANDSMUTATIONS. And the door slams. Don't bring me down. Slam. As we go outside, last place on earth where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, California.
And here's today's podcast picture.
I'm sad we can't ever do a BANDSMUTATION with the group REM, because they stuck to pretty much the same, except for when the drummer left. They were the same guys all the way through and didn't turn into any other bands. Michael Stipe did sing with, the Palominos or whatever on one thing, and I think he sang on a B-52 song or something, but that was it. They didn't turn into any other bands. And as far as I know, Michael Stipe still has not done a solo record. But in any case, he is in the cartoon today, which features John Deere the engineer.
Yes, Mike, you and I were standing there talking, and all of a sudden, Michael Stipe showed up.
Yes, that was so strange. So, you and I are talking about it, and there's Michael Stipe. So see that drawing there at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com.
Hello there, John Deere the engineer. How you doing there? I'm doing pretty good, Valentino. I almost called you me. How strange is that? Yeah, that makes no sense at all, there.
Hey, I can't tell you two guys apart. Do you know that?
Well, Bison, I'm the guy that you know and love so well. And we've known each other a long time, there. And we're both tea patties.
Oh, so you're John Deere the engineer?
No, I'm Valentino, the acting it ding.
Oh, I didn't know that. Do you know that? Well, John Deere, thanks for being on the show and confusing everyone today.
Not a problem. I hate tea partiers.
Yeah, we all know that. Please, you two, don't get into a fight.
You said what about the tea patty?
I call Serenity now. Serenity now!
Okay, Mike, I will calm down, there. Yes, let's not talk politics. Let's talk about what's going to be on the next show.
Excellent idea, John Deere. Yes, on the next show, we will have a very special guest on the feature Into an Interview. Plus, we'll hear from Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, and John Deere the engineer. You'll be back.
Oh, joy.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!
You got to slow down, sweet talking woman.